about God's mysterious plans, because they're not that mysterious, and he tells us in the Scripture about his plans for us and how good they are. And we've been going through the first part of the book of Ephesians because that's a place where God lays out what he wants for us in wonderful, rich, lavish detail. I want to move just a little bit from that tonight, this afternoon, this morning. I'll be all right. And it's not really moving from it. Let me explain to you what happened. I don't know exactly what happened. But sometime, maybe Beth will remember and fill in the details. But sometime within the last week or two, I saw a greeting card that somebody sent to somebody else. It was a cheery greeting card, either a spiritual God bless you because you're sick or because it's your birthday or something else. And it was one of these Bible cards that has a Bible text in it. And it had the text in it from Jeremiah chapter 29, verse 11. For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans for wholeness and not for evil, to give you a future and a hope. Have you ever seen that verse or heard that verse or had people quote that verse to you? How many have heard that verse? Yeah, hold on. Well, I want to preach on that verse today. And it's a good news, bad news verse. And which would you like first? First, I'll give you the bad news. That verse, if you go back and take it in the context of Jeremiah, was not a welcome sound to the people who heard it. They were not pleased at all. They had their ideas, and they were doing something in Babylon, and Jeremiah was writing a letter from Jerusalem and telling them they were wrong, and that they should totally turn around and change what they were doing, and that their prophets were lying to them, and that they were entirely on the wrong track. And they were not pleased to hear it. And the fact that he sent them this letter resulted in one of them writing a letter back, telling the king back there to put Jeremiah in prison because of this letter that he'd sent. So the letter was a risky thing for Jeremiah to send. It was not welcome when he got it, and they retaliated by trying to get him put in prison. That's bad news. The good news is that in the larger context of the whole Scripture, it means just what it says, and it means it for you, not just for the people to whom this letter was addressed. Now, we'll get around to the Jeremiah context, maybe next week, or well, after Tim finishes preaching to you. But we'll give you a rest from that for a while. But today, I want to concentrate on the good news part of that verse. What it means to you in a positive sense in the light of all the things we've been seeing about God's plan. It's a promise box verse, you know. It's one of those lovely things they print on little cardboards that you pull out and read it for breakfast or something like that. But it is out of context. In Jeremiah's context, it was unwelcome. In the whole Bible context, it's beautiful and very, very, very welcome. First of all, let's look at this verse and in terms of what we've been preaching. The plans. The plans. God's mysterious plans. You know how many people, even preachers on the radio, will try to make excuses for bad things, and they say God did it because it's part of his mysterious plans. Well, that's a lie. God never did anything bad. And when we get back into Jeremiah, you may question that. Say, wait a minute, didn't he send plague and fire and Sodom and Gomorrah and the flood and all that? Well, we'll get to that. We'll get to that. Trust me for that for just a little while. But the truth is that he never did anything bad. Never. And it's not that, well, the bad really wasn't bad. No, bad is bad. Bad really is bad, and good is good. And Isaiah has a verse where he says, God is not pleased with people who call bad things good and who call good things bad. So don't ever slip into that. But the plans, I know the plans. There is minimal mystery about God's plans. God is here in this verse about to tell you his plans. I know the plans I have for you. So he's about to tell us. God is starting to reveal. This is the headline. This verse is the headline. Then the details about the plans come later. Second point, I know the plans, God says. I know the plans that I have for you. I want you to think about that. What does planning imply? When do you make plans? You make plans when there's a kind of an uncertain time coming up and you're not exactly sure what may develop, what kind of difficulties or unforeseen blessings may be ahead. You make some plans when you don't know the future. Why is God making plans? Why does he say he has plans if everything was decided before the foundation of the earth? What's the point of plans now? I want you to see that just the use of the word plans, so that God is saying, I know the plans I have, is a contradiction to the ideal that everything is determined. Why would he say he said? Instead, he should say, I know what's going to happen to you. But he doesn't say that. And in fact, he is trying to persuade them to change their attitude so that what happens to them will be different. They want one thing to happen, he wants something else to happen, and he's beseeching them and explaining to them, my plans are good, follow my plans. I know the plans, I know the plans. He doesn't say, I know your fate, I know your destiny. He's saying, I know the plans I have for you. So remember that. Talking to them about this implies that there's a good deal of fluidity in the situation. Could go in different directions. You know, when a father says to his son, I need you to help me tomorrow morning on this, and the son says, but Dad, I have plans. That happens. And he may say, son, I have plans for you. I know you have plans, but I have plans, and you better take my plans because it's going to turn out better in the long run. Sending a prophet, when God sends a prophet, that implies fluidity. It implies that the future is not determined, is not destined. The prophet is sent, he's trying to change their minds. The next angle I want you to see on this verse is to emphasize the word I. That I know the plans I have, in contrast to the plans you may have. Or in what you think is inevitable. Oh, this looks as though it's that. I know the plans I have, says God. God always has some plans. Now, this does not mean that he wants you to run in a rut. And no, he wants you to have the desires of your heart. Always. And he wants to tell you that he is working in you to work out his desires. When I was a small boy, I somehow got the false idea that doing God's will meant whatever I wanted must be wrong. That's not correct. And I've shared with you before how Henrietta Mears at the Bible conference out there in Hollywood Presbyterian Church, they made it clear to us that what God is doing is working in you both to will and to do of his good pleasure. As he says to us, as Paul writes in Philippians 2. God says, work out your solutions. Work out your solutions with fear and trembling, because God is at work in you, both to will and to do. God is trying to shape it so that what you want is what he wants. And when you walk with his Spirit, when you try